my name is Matthias Ekström.
I'm Jamie Green.
Timo Scheider.
Bruno Spengler.
Mike Rockenfeller, and we are here at the Norisring.
And I hope you enjoy watching the race
Here on the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit.
And I hope you enjoy watching the race here.
in Zandvoort.
Have fun.
And welcome to the
Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona.
I hope you're going to have fun watching the
final race in Hockenheim.
Hello, welcome to our review of the 2009 DTM season. 20 drivers drawn from 8 different nations. 2 great motor manufacturers going head-to-head, Audi and Mercedes-Benz. This is the ultimate in touring car racing. Racetracks, of course, all around Europe. And both Audi and Mercedes-Benz again had 4-car top squads with the 2009 machines. Well, as is tradition, the season would start and end at Hockenheim. On hand, the German-Irish band Ramon, who have written the DTM anthem, Faith, and Ramon's Rigavi saying, Formula One's a fantastic sport, but the DTM has a certain character all of its own, and we particularly support Martin Tomczyk. He's a marvellous driver. We know each other well, and I'm wishing him all the best for this year, keeping my fingers crossed for this upcoming race. He's starting in 3rd place, but I think he's definitely going to finish 1st. Well, let's see if that is right. Ramon, of course, playing live just before the start of the race. But it's Ekström in the Red Bull car for Audi, making the best start here. We can see it from another angle. Ekström, one of the top 4 Audi drivers. Here is Timo Scheider, the reigning champion.
Unfortunately, I stalled my car right at the start.
So Ramon's favourite having a problem at the start. Gary Paffett involved in a first lap incident. An incident which would cost him dearly throughout the season.
Basically, I must have braked a bit late because Alex turned in front of me and I was on the inside of the track, and basically I just couldn't stop the car enough and hit the back of Alex's car.
And others were involved as well, including Ralf Schumacher. And Ralf promoted this season to the top squad, having had his first year in DTM in 2008, and that's what happened to him.
Unfortunately, I had a little get-together with some teammates and other people on the track.
More incident. Ralf Schumacher did recover. There he is in the Trilux car. Bruno Spengler crabbing badly, suspension damage. That dented his hopes. And it was all left to Paul di Resta to salvage something for Mercedes-Benz. Their season was starting in horrendous fashion. And this was the comment of Paul di Resta.
It's been a pretty disappointing weekend. Your performance has not been nearly good enough, and we have to analyse this why it was. The winter testing has been going great. I've been very comfortable in the car, but I'm sure we can get it together.
Ekström was running away with the race, and then with 2 laps to go, he suddenly slowed. Timo Scheider, therefore, took 2nd place.
In the end, it's P2, 8 points. That's something really, really important for the championship.
But here was a man who had been denied of that 10 points. He had dominated the race, but then the puncture.
The race was 2 laps too long to get 10 points and only to get 2. It's for sure a difference, but I know the season is long. If the God in heaven is fair, maybe the others also will have some bad luck, but I'm sure I had mine for this year.
Yeah, bad luck. He lost a lot of time, did actually finish in the end, and victory therefore handed to the veteran Tom Christensen in the 100 years of Audi. That's the white car there. But Audi absolutely dominating at Hockenheim. And a wonderful start of the season for Tom Christensen, the Great Dane.
It was a great weekend for us, for Audi in general, and winning the race and with having 4 Audis on the first 4 places is absolutely amazing. We missed one. Mattias Ekström was dominating through the whole weekend.
And the Danish national anthem sung out loud there by Toby Wilson. An emotional moment for Tom Christiansen. And what a start to his season. On then to round 2 at the impressive Euro Speedway Lausitz. And it was here that Gary Paffett scored his first victory of the season. Bruno Spengler came second and Ekström was third. And there they are, up on the podium.
You can say definitely the strategy was what won us the race, but also the pace we had in the car to be able to do the lap times was also key. So I think the team obviously did a fantastic job with both the car and the strategy. You know, to get in front after the first stop and then hold that to the end was fantastic.
Yeah, that's what Gary Paffett had done to take this victory. Stayed out for 24 laps, a long first stint, and that was a very worthwhile strategy. In the closing stages, Bruno Spengler was certainly charging hard after him, but the Mercedes-Benz won too. They were definitely back.
Thanks to my team also for the strategy. It was very good. I could drive the second stint. I was always alone.
Paul de Rest had spent the whole race pursuing Mattias Ekström. The Scot put on a lot of pressure. But Ekström was always in control of the situation. There, the Red Bull car in front of the white Mercedes-Benz.
The car was feeling very good for a few laps. Then we pitted 2 times, and I recognized that the 2 Mercedes guys run a different strategy and overtook me on strategy. Then to finish P3 was for sure not what I was dreaming about.
I think all Audis were very focused on what my strategy was going to be, and you know, it was disappointing because we by far had the quickest car out there today, and you know, we would have easily won had it been all right.
At the start of the race, de Rest lost out to Ekström, who was starting from his second pole of the season, 2 out of 2. Behind them, Mike Rockenfeller in the red Audi was responsible for holding up Timo Scheider in the black A4. Rockenfeller initially in second place.
It's a bit disappointing to see what Rockenfeller did at the first corner. You know, he clearly gained an advantage doing what he did. I left him no room, and he drove over the Ludwig curve and got in front of me, and you know, that was my race done for the day.
An unhappy Paul de Rest. Let's just see what he was talking about there. Paul in the white car with the red mirrors.
I went into my pit, and that was a main situation I had in the race, and we lost the left rear wheel nut, so that was about 4.5 seconds we lost. That was maybe the podium we lost in the end of the day.
Yeah, there you see the pit stop. Rather than the 3.2, 3.3 seconds, well, it actually took 9 seconds. So Timo Scheider's defence of his title not really getting off to a very good start at all in 2009. And celebrations for Gary Paffett, and he leaps onto the podium. Race 3 then, the Norisring. David Coulthard was there, so was Mika Häkkinen. This is always a massive meeting, racing around the streets of Nuremberg. Very tricky circuit indeed. Very short, but takes some very special techniques. A very big crowd here. This in the famous rallying grounds of Nuremberg. Certainly David Coulthard was impressed with everything that he saw. But what did the recently retired Formula One driver have to say about his future?
No, I have an open mind for my future in terms of racing. I knew that this year I wouldn't race anything because I did 26 years from karting until Formula One. And I became a father, as you said, recently, and I wanted to spend a bit of different time with the family. But I still go to the Grand Prix, I still have friends obviously within Mercedes-Benz, and we'll see what the future holds.
And what did the future hold for the race? Timo Scheider starting from pole position in the black and silver Audi. Ekstrom there alongside him. Paffett also well up, fresh from that victory in the previous round. Down to the first Grundig hairpin. And we've seen all sorts of incidents here in the past. And it's the two Audis literally side by side, followed by the two Mercedes-Benz. Sweeping past the walls of the vast stadium. Bits of fiberglass went flying. And into the wall there, Oliver Jarvis, who's had a great start to the season in Hockenheim. But Jarvis into the wall after that. Some confusion after the restart. There's the order: Ekstrom, Scheider, Spengler and Paffett.
First lap, the last corner, Timo braked too late and went wide, so I passed him. Then the safety car board came, and for me it was clear that I was in front, but the race director saw it differently. For sure I will go and ask them and watch the videos and see who's right.
And more problems for Ekstrom at his first stop. Again, losing time in the pit stop. And look how they came out, and Paffett carrying a lot of speed. There's Ekstrom. Paffett goes straight past him. So, a troubled season thus far for Matthias Ekstrom, despite his speed. Scheider, his first stop, passed off without incident. And there he is, back in the lead. Bruno Spengler coming out of the pits, but drops behind Timo Scheider. Spengler, of course, the French-Canadian, very much part of the scene in the DTM for many years. Paffett's car, you can't miss that, the white car with the orange nose. Jamie Green, though, was starting to charge hard. There he is in the blue car. We go on board with him. Green this year in a year-old car. Watching on there, Timo Scheider's partner Jasmine. And just look at Green here, getting plenty of grip down the inside, trying to get past Scheider. And then switching sides, going down the inside. This was some of the best racing we saw all season. And look at Green, fantastic manoeuvre for him. Takes him into the lead right in the closing stages here. Magnificent racing.
Timo was going very wide in the first corner, which enabled me to get very close towards the chicane. And I had a look on the previous lap and Timo closed the door. And then the next lap I tried to surprise him and make the same move, and I committed to the move. I knew if I made half a move it would probably end in a crash, so I had to commit and get really down the inside of him, and it worked out really well.
Well, let's see it again, and we certainly barged his way through, didn't he, Jamie Green? But he saw the opportunity, as he said, and he absolutely went for it. And Green, of course, dropped back to that year-old squad for this season. Ralf Schumacher moving up to the top squad. Some discussion about that in various circles. But Jamie Green takes the checkered flag. Mercedes-Benz 7th successive win here at the Norisring. But what about Timo Scheider?
Yeah, the situation with Jamie was quite tough, but it was like touring car racing is. So yeah, in the end, it's unlucky 4th place, but we are still leading the championship. That's important, and that's something nice.
Yeah, Jamie bathed there in the bubbly. But Timo Scheider leading the drivers' standings, followed by Spengler, Paffett, Green and Ekstrom. Paffett, Green and Ekstrom all on equal points. So that was the Norisring. We moved on to round 4, the first non-German race of the season by the seaside at Zandvoort in Holland. And it brought a major surprise in qualifying. This young man, Oliver Jarvis, in a year-old Audi, put his car on the pole position. There we see the virtual grid, the red car of Oliver Jarvis, and alongside him Gary Paffett. Behind Bruno Spengler, and also in another 08 Audi, Mike Rockenfeller. Paul de Resta and Alexandre Premar, another 08 Audi. They obviously had a good setup for those cars. At Zandvoort, always a fast run down into the long right-hander. That is the Tarzan curve, bit of bumping and boring going on early on, with Rockenfeller getting stuck in, but it was Jarvis who was into the first corner first. But Gary Paffett was certainly looking for a good result here. See the start again. And, well, Rockenfeller right into the side of Paul de Resta. Mercedes-Benz, Norbert Haug wasn't impressed with that. But look at Paffett all the way round the outside, trying to pass Jarvis. Jarvis in his second season of the DTM. Pit stops, as ever, would be crucial. There is Paffett in. Here comes Jarvis. And out they went. And had the order changed? No, Jarvis just holding on in front of Paffett. Out on the track was Bruno Spengler, who was now leading from Ekstrom and Martin Tomczyk. Jarvis, under a lot of pressure, made this small mistake. And in a trice, Paffett was passed. But Jarvis certainly had given good account of himself and shown he had plenty of speed.
Just ran slightly wide and Gary was able to dive up the inside. So my mistake, my fault, and unfortunately it cost me a potential victory.
Yeah, so Jarvis holding his hand up there to the mistake. Ekstrom making his first pit stop. He'd stayed out long. Out on the track then the lead now with Gary Paffett. Ekstrom rejoining and racing wheel to wheel with Paul de Resta. Just saw that dive plane fly up. Here's Paffett's second pit stop. And it's a good one. What about Audi? Oh, I don't think they've got enough fuel in there. The man shaking his head. And added to that, Audi knew that their fuel consumption here at Zandvoort was a little bit on the edge. Ekstrom fighting back and getting past his teammates easily.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with today, starting 9th, finishing 2nd. It's nice for collecting points for the championship. What is to remember from the weekend is the good car from the race and also the qualifying speed, and next time we just make sure to start a bit further up.
But suggestions afterwards that Ekstrom's drive through the field was assisted by team orders. And that's what the stewards actually decided. But Gary Paffett took the victory here. Norbert Haug happy with that, but not happy with the Audi team tactics at all.
The car was fantastic. The car was really fast, and I was able just to pace myself, just to try and keep the tyres in good shape and get it home. And from there, it was relatively easy once we got in front. The last 5 laps, I was really cruising, trying to save the tyres. So I think we'd have won by a fairly big margin if we keep going at the pace we were. Yeah.
Win number 2 of the season for Gary Paffett. He went to the top of the standings. So 4 races down, 2 to Mercedes, 2 to Audi. On then to Oschersleben, always a popular race. But for pole sitter Tom Christensen, something of a disaster. He'd rolled forward a couple of inches.
It would have been perfect if Tom could have made it with a proper start and not being again penalized with a drive-through, which cost him more than 30 seconds.
And indeed, yes, Tom Christensen had been told over the radio the problem, didn't get a good start, still thinking about that. So a disaster for Tom Christensen despite his fantastic qualifying. But let's find out what Timo Scheider thought.
That was one of the key points today, to beat straight away Tom into the first corner, and I managed it actually. It was a great feeling, and afterwards I knew that is more or less a good race for us.
And cars out wide at the start there. And Bruno Spengler certainly in the middle of all that. And the French-Canadian, well, sandwiched in and bits flying from his car.
The problem was at turn 1, I was next to Oliver Jarvis, and Mike Rockefeller had a very, very optimistic launch on the inside and pushed me onto Oliver Jarvis, and I was a bit stuck in sandwich between both of them for turn 2. Then Oliver Jarvis pushed me a bit wide, and then Paul Di Resta overtook me on the inside.
Tom Christensen had to make a stop-and-go penalty, and Ekstrom had already passed Martin Tomczyk, and we can hear from Martin.
The second chicane, I went too fast over that chicane. I got understeer, came on the pickup and came too wide, so I couldn't go on throttle. And Matthias was on a perfect line, and he took the chance and overtook me there. I had no chance.
Meanwhile, Gary Paffett, there he is, the orange-nosed car. He was certainly making up a lot of places. 3 laps right at the start.
I had to do it pretty quickly, so I saw a gap, I went for the gap and we touched a bit, but it was quite fair.
But after that, some aerodynamic damage to the Salzgitter back car. Just knocking off some of the rear dive planes, as you can see there. Also here at this Oschersleben racetrack, it's very hard on tyres, so all the drivers taking that into consideration. Generally, it's considered that the Audis are a bit harder on their rear tyres than the Mercedes-Benz. Meanwhile, Norbert Haug had this comment.
If you're handicapped with 0.4 of a second, if you carry 20 kilos with you after 3 race wins in a row, then it's just a handicap. And I think the guys did a great job, executed a fine strategy.
Yeah, of course, success ballast used in the DTM. Here's a Mike Rockefeller incident. And, well, he took Pramat out, a teammate. And Rocky had this to say after that incident.
This time I was so late on the brakes that when he closed basically the door and tried to take the corner, which I would have done the same probably, then I couldn't, reduce the speed as much as I wanted, and I locked up the front wheels and I touched him. And yeah, unfortunately it happened with Alex, but still I think we talked about it.
Yeah, Alex Pramat having a string of non-finishes the early part of the DTM season. Christensen just passing Jamie Green to get the last point available. But Scheider had kept out of everyone's way and took the victory here.
I'm really happy that right now we did it quite well. We had proper pit stops, proper strategy, so thank you very much for this.
Yes, the win for Audi, but 4 Mercedes-Benz managed to score points. It was still very even between Audi and Mercedes-Benz. There the Audi boys up on the podium. They'd had a 1-2-3, and it left the championship looking like this. Paffett with 28 points and Ekstrom with 28 points halfway through the season. Timo Scheider, Bruno Spengler, Paul Di Resta were following in their wake. On then to the second half of the season, and amongst the VIPs at the Nürburgring was Christina Stürmer, a well-known singer in Germany. There she poses with Martin Tomczyk and then climbed aboard an Audi A4. And she was certainly wrapped up in the excitement. She's actually from Austria and always very successful in the German charts. She was certainly enjoying her day. Well, we're touring at the moment, a lot of concerts we're doing. We normally play to our own fans. Here it's completely different, quite a change. We're basically just like visitors. We're surrounded by the noise of the engines. It's so totally different. But it's great to play to a different crowd. And some of them probably haven't heard of me, but we're trying to win some new fans as well. And I've certainly become a fan of the DTM. 86,000 fans packed in the Nürburgring grandstands. Nürburgring recently had a major facelift with all the buildings, and the crowd are here to enjoy themselves. And off they go. Incidentally, Tom Christensen had announced that this would be his last DTM season. Into that first hairpin, which has claimed so many victims in the past. And apparently one of them, Gary Paffett, down there.
I got hit by Catherine, on my rear wheel, which was very frustrating. It put us all the way to the back of the field, and we had to fight back past, first of all the Collars cars and then through everybody else.
Yeah, it was definitely a major blow to Gary Paffett's championship effort.
She kind of said sorry, yes, but it's not enough, I think, in such a long race, to do something stupid like this in turn one is unacceptable.
And there were more incidents to come as well. Ekstrom and Spengler getting together. There you see it in replay.
In the turn 3, braking for turn 3, I braked on the inside to defend my position. Matthias Ekstrom was a bit optimistic, I think, on the brakes, so it was just a mistake from himself. He just broke my car, just drove into me basically on the brakes at turn 3. Drove me wide and broke everything on the rear left of my car. My car was just very difficult to control for the next 5 corners.
After turn 2, I saw that Bruno were a bit slow exiting turn 2, and I wanted to overtake him. Then I misjudged a bit on the braking, and I touched him on the rear, which wasn't planned, and I destroyed my car a bit, but I could overtake him still.
2 turns further on, and Audi lost another car. Tom Christensen hit from behind and spun into the barrier. Oliver Jarvis seemed to be involved with that. And Ralf Schumacher, who had started from the back, certainly got a good view of it. But whatever, Christensen was out. Tomczyk, Scheider and Ekstrom were now the fastest men on the circuit, and Winkelhock was going well. Paffett was on a charge, up to position 11 after 17 laps. But he needed a brilliant race strategy from those men to help him. And look at that, Paul di Resta losing his rear spoiler gave the Scotsman a huge shock.
We need to keep our heads down, plough into the wind, and there's still a lot of points up for grabs, and miracles can happen, and I'm just going to try and fight at least for some victories for the rest of the year, and hopefully to gain some height in the championship.
Yes, there the wing collected and the championship swinging back Audi's way. Pit stops here for Scheider and Tomczyk. And a very quick one indeed for Tomczyk. Here they come out of the pits in front of Matthias Ekstrom. Scheider only just making it in front of the hard-charging Swede. The double DTM champion, yet to score a win in 2009. There's Ralf Schumacher. Schumacher then having his best drive of the season, which has been somewhat disappointing, but it was all going Audi's way. They'd had the 1-2-3 at Oschersleben, and now another tremendous result, another lockout on the podium here, and the first victory of the season for Martin Tomczyk.
At the end, we are really happy to finish 1-2-3, like in Oschersleben already. So that was really a perfect weekend for Audi and for sure for myself.
And let's not forget a very good fourth place for Markus Winkelhock in one of the 08 cars. And plenty of bubbly to wet our lens as the season headed to Brands Hatch. Lots of speculation here when Frank Williams arrived, and they're speaking to his old driver, Ralf Schumacher. Ralf had most of his Formula One success with Sir Frank, of course.
I'm impressed how professional everything appears to be, but also I'm impressed by the atmosphere, which is very sort of friendly and relaxed, and it's not too intense.
Lewis Hamilton was on hand for a second year at the DTM. Of course, he used to race alongside these cars when he was winning the Formula 3 Euro Series, so he knows all about the DTM. Lots of fans there to greet him. And Lewis also got to do some laps in a road-going Mercedes-Benz, and was very impressive indeed in the AMG machine. Threw some lucky prize, give us around the Kentish 1.3 mile circuit.
I think what's so special firstly about the event, I think they put on a great show, but the fact that the fans can get so close to the drivers and to the cars and to have a real feeling of a real race weekend, that's probably why it's so unique. And then the racing is great, you know, we got these cars that we actually have on the road, similar cars to what we have on the road, and they put on a great show.
Well, they are of course custom built space frame chassis with carbon fibre and Kevlar bodies and the V8 racing engines, but they certainly look like Audi A4s and Mercedes C-types. And this race starting very well for Paul de Resta. We're on board here with Martin Tomczyk. Bruno Spengler had a very good start as well. Ralf Schumacher seeing some of the flying carbon fibre. But it was another race that was looking very good indeed for Audi. There is Tomczyk, there's Christensen, Paffett chasing them. Ekstrom in fourth place.
I got held up by Tom Christensen at the start for most of the first stint, but managed to get past him, which was important.
And look at this battle here, and Tom Christensen getting stuck in. The boys in the pit certainly enjoyed that. Jamie Green and Tom Christensen, and again Jamie Green showing he knows how to find a way through. Lewis Hamilton certainly enjoying the action there down in the Mercedes pits. But Paul de Resta had put in a series of very fast mid-race laps. And look where the Scot rejoins in front of his teammates. Spengler and Tomczyk seem to be lacking a bit of pace here.
The only problem I had is I had a puncture at turn 1. I lost the rear of the car because of that puncture and went wide into the gravel. And then Martin Tomczyk could overtake me because the car, I just couldn't control the car anymore.
And something of a turbulent end to the race. Matthias Lauda in one of the 8 Mercedes had this very big incident, no injury fortunately. Then the pace car came out, and that's not what Paul de Resta had really wanted.
For sure, it doesn't make things easy, and you know there's all these things going through your head. Can something break or whatever? And it just gives you a moment where you try to think about what's going to happen.
Then there was this big incident there Tom Christensen, helped into the barrier in the closing stages by Bruno Spengler. Tom climbed out shaken. The stewards did not take any action afterwards. But it was a great day for Paul de Resta. The man who finished second in the 08 Championship took his first victory of 2009 and won the race in absolutely superb style and certainly made Norbert Haug happy.
So still everything is possible. We won 4 out of 7 races and this is the 150s, and thanks to Paul, thanks to the team, it was a great achievement.
Overall, I'm really happy with P2. We managed to made a gap right now with 5 points, I think, in the championship. That's positive. That was my main target for this weekend, and I hope we can continue this performance. Yeah.
Damon Hill presented the trophy, but as Scheider said, it was starting to look very good for him. He'd extended his advantage in the points table over Ekstrom and Paffett. On then to Spain, the most southerly of the DTM races. Barcelona on a shortened version of the Grand Prix track. And Timo Scheider had a very good getaway in the black car. There he is going round the outside.
I had De Resta covered, I had Tomczyk covered, and then on the left side I suddenly see in my mirror a black car. And I couldn't believe it. And I realized, of course, the black car, De Resta was last year, so he used a black car. So then I realized it was Timo. I was obviously very careful with him through turn 1.
Well, let's look at it again in replay. Certainly Tom Christensen fastest away at the beginning. There's Timo Scheider, we go on board with him.
It was an awesome start, no question. I just tried to catch Gary straight away at the start, but actually I managed to catch all 4 down to turn 1. That was an amazing start and a great feeling.
Yeah, and Timo Scheider catapulting into the lead there. Absolutely fantastic start and so important for him when he reflects back on his championship year. I know he'll consider that start was absolutely of paramount importance. Christensen going well here. There's Susie Stoddard, the other British lady driver, and she got involved in this incident with Catherine Legg, and Catherine off backwards. So the 2 ladies in a controversial incident there. Here's Timo Scheider just passing one of the Collis 07 cars in second place, Tom Christensen. Gary Paffett was doing all he could, but the hopes were looking pretty slim now for Mercedes. There he passes teammate Paul de Resta.
Quite a lot towards the mid part to the end of the race, and we're not really sure why. We just struggled with the balance. We get races like this. It was tremendously hard, but you know, Brands Hatch, we had it quite easy, so we need to analyse why.
So again, Paul de Resta needing to do some analysis after the race. So with him and Bruno Spengler dropping back. It was again looking great for Audi. The Ekstrom pit stop. Out he goes, rejoining in 5th place behind Gary Paffett. As ever in DTM, the strategies of the pit stops very important. Balancing the weight of the car as the fuel burns off against having a fresh set of tyres. Battle for 3rd place, Tomczyk versus Paffett.
And then in the end he was extremely slow, and then I thought, yeah, with that speed I think I can nearly pass him on the outside, but this he already realized and letting me go wide, and then I lost 1 more place.
Yeah, Ekstrom dropping back. Timo Scheider, though, well in the lead here. And Timo Scheider took the victory and increased his lead at the top of the table. It had been a great race for the man with Super Mario on his helmet.
In the very end, everything worked out and we won the race. That's a nice day for us.
Yeah, and afterwards he kissed his
I
car.
think we have to just focus on trying to get more consistency out of the car speed, and we can, again, challenge for pole position and race wins at the next 2 races. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, pretty well. That was the only way now that Gary Paffett could stop Timo Scheider winning the championship. The penultimate race will be held in France, a new circuit. We were heading off to Dijon. Yes, Dijon, the capital of Burgundy in the east of France, famous of course for its mustard and indeed its food. A track with a great Grand Prix history as well, and the race certainly captured the imagination of the local race fans who attended in their many thousands. Huge queues to get into the race. Jean Alesi was also on hand. Jean, of course, contested some 52 DTM races between 2002 and 2006 after his Grand Prix career. So who would it be here? The Mercedes-Benz hopes were now very slim. But nevertheless, they were looking good in qualifying, and then at the start of the race, well, certainly things were starting to go the way of the Stuttgart manufacturer.
I had a very good start. First laps were quite okay, and then I found out that I had some problems on the rear left the whole race actually with older tires, and couldn't really push all the time because I really was struggling with the rear left.
Let's see that start again, and Bruno Spengler in the silver grey car was supported here by his father and other members of his family. Almost sees this as his local racetrack, although he had actually crashed here in a test some years before, so he had painful memories of the swooping Burgundy circuit. And look at this, a rear puncture for the championship leader, Timo Scheider. Timo, with problems.
Already my first stint, I had a puncture rear left in the second last corner, but unfortunately, yeah, it was in the second last corner. I was happy that it happened there because I had not so far to the pits.
And now there were worries that the other Audis would have a similar problem because this circuit very, very hard on that left rear tyre. On board here with Gary Paffett. And how quickly can fortunes change? And another Audi puncture, this time for Christensen. And there was worried looks in the Audi garage. Tom Christensen, not a happy man.
We were told a little bit to be careful with the tires, which I did, but I didn't get any warning. Then suddenly the tires popped a few laps before the end at the worst possible moment, because it was after my second stop and it was at braking at turn 1. So I had to complete a whole lap with the car screaming on the floor and damaging the car a lot. So I thought I will make a little shortcut, which I did, not to put other people in danger as well. So yeah, then they gave me the black flag.
Yeah, Tom not happy with that. Ekstrom on the limit though. Woody's and look at that, his tyre goes as well. And suddenly it's Paffett in the lead. Ekstrom into the pits. Dr. Ulrich cannot believe it.
5-6 laps from the end, it was last corner. I was nearly planning to come in by my own because the vibrations were getting too big. And then halfway to the pit entrance, it just exploded, and that was the end of the championship dreams for this year.
Matthias Ekstrom then with an unfortunate blowout, but behind this huge battle for the places, and Ralf Schumacher going well, Maro Engel in an 08 Mercedes having a particularly good race here. But for Paffett, it was another victory, and he kept his championships alive with those 10 points. Great drive from Gary Paffett to Resta second, Spengler third, Green fourth, and Schumacher in fifth.
Mercedes had 5 cars in the top 5 positions, a fantastic result for everybody. You know, 3 HWA cars on the podium. You know, we have to say a massive thank you to the team, because clearly they've built a very fast, very reliable car, and they've been working very hard all year.
So only Martin Tomczyk and Timo Scheider actually making up points for Audi. So the championship would be going to the wire to the very last round.
It came by surprise, and we had 5 tire failures, which is really tough. And all of our fast cars lost quite a lot of time with additional pit stops. And we have to find what the problem was.
So Gary Paffett onto the podium, jumps into the air again. And as we said, his championship hopes were still alive. It was a slim chance, but maybe there would be another major turn of events in Hockenheim. So the 10th in this DTM Odyssey of 2009. A nice Jim Bamber cartoon to remember it all by, including the 18 podiums, the 9 poles, the 4 race wins, and the 212 points.
Leaving DTM, it's one eye you are crying a little bit, because obviously over this season with Audi I've gained a lot of friends, especially the very close working relationship with the mechanics, the engineers. So in DTM is all about fans. So in that sense I will for sure miss some of that.
155,000 of those fans packed themselves into Hockenheim for this final race. Ekstrom there on the pole. David Coulthard was back watching another DTM race. Gary Paffett had certainly qualified well. Look at Timo Scheider on the outside. Scheider wanted to keep out of trouble, of course. Paffett and Scheider, the 2 championship contenders, side by side. Everyone going quite wide there. Let's see that start again. There is Scheider on the outside, but Ekstrom getting the best start.
I had a proper start straight away, like I had in the last couple of races as well. So it was quite difficult to see Gary and Matthias banging door to door, and that was something crazy in the beginning, but I just had the feeling to keep my car in one piece.
Yeah, some very boisterous stuff going on the first lap between Paffett and Ekstrom. Just watch this.
I know Gary, he's a really hard fighter, that is me, and I'm sure I would have done the same like he did. I was not expecting that he would give me a punch that ended on the grass, but everything else was like I know him.
Yeah, maybe we can see that incident again. Look at Gary there. Whoop. Bounces into the side of Ekstrom, certainly trying very hard. And this is Gary's view.
I was very determined to win this race. I had to do it to be able to give myself any chance of winning the championship. So any opportunity I had to get past Matthias I took, and we had a pretty tense battle, for a few laps.
Yeah, that battle continued. Here they are, the pair of them at the front of the field, as Ralf Schumacher spins out at the back. Absolutely side by side. Banging wheels. Scheider just watching it. The man hoping to secure his 2nd successive DTM victory here, and Audi's 3rd successive victory, and that would be a record. And then this happened. Ekstrom getting past, and then down at the next corner. It was still getting very serious indeed. But already there was a problem for Ekstrom. You see that little incident there? That's the result of it. Something had punctured the radiator. Ekstrom was out, and the double champion going the whole season without a win. Timo Scheider, though, was playing it canny. He's learned so much over the years. One of the most experienced men in the DTM. He just wanted to keep out of trouble, take a podium finish, and that would be good enough to beat Gary Paffett to the championship. There's Scheider on his way. A spin for Tom Christensen in his last race. And the car said goodbye Tom on it, but not a race that the Dane will want to remember. It all went wrong for him here.
I never give up. I finished, I drove the car, very damaged over the the finish line, and there I made a donut, parked it, that's it.
The Audi flags waved, but the man who won the race was Gary Paffett. But of course the championship went to Timo Scheider as the fireworks went off. And so, Timo Scheider, the DTM champion.
It's an amazing feeling. It's quite difficult to describe my feelings right now. I just know that we have done something amazing today, and we have done a special year after a tricky beginning of the season. We are fighting back for the end or for the middle of the season, and then we managed to be on the front in the championship again. And today we managed to win the championship. That's something crazy and something special. After last year, to defend the title is a great feeling, but it's quite difficult to describe it.
And this is the way they celebrated. But Gary Paffett had won more races than anyone else.
I'm pretty happy, you know. We've won. I've now won 4 races this year, twice as many as anybody else. So we did everything we could today. We came here not expecting to win the championship. There was a chance, but it was a slim chance. So we came here to try and win the race, and that's what we did. You know, we gained a few points on Timo, but not enough.
There is the final point score. Timo Scheider winning the championship by 5 points. And interestingly, Gary Paffett had 4 wins and Audi had 4 wins. Other 6 races, of course, went to Mercedes-Benz. So honours pretty equally shared between the 2 manufacturers. But again, it had been a great racing season for the DTM in 2009.